Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, May 24th. There's a little over 300 albums coming out this week. I got 14 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoy the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, there's a little over 300 albums coming out this week. I'm only going to talk about 14 on the show though today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, I'll put links down below. They should all be available online. Definitely excited to check out the new Lenny Kravitz album this week. This is Blue Electric Light. It's his 12th studio album. It's going to run you around $33 online. There's a black version of it. There's a picture disc version of it. And then there's a pink and blue version, which is going to be indie exclusive. It's a 2 LP release. I'm really interested to see what he does, what direction he goes musically on this one. I think he's been one of the more consistent musicians, at least rock musicians, over the last 30 years. But it's his first album in 6 years. And I wasn't a huge fan of his last 2 albums, even though there was some good songs on there. Like I said, I'm definitely interested to see what direction he goes on this new album. He's already released 2 singles off it already. I've only listened to one of them. I haven't checked out the other one. Maybe I'll check out this week before the album drops. But I'm going to hold off, stream this album before I decide to grab a copy of it or not. So you got that coming out this week, and then you got the new album by 21 Pilots, Clancy, coming out. It's their 7th studio album. There's also multiple variants of this one. There's a bunch of big box store versions. I know there's a Walmart version. I think there's also a Target version. There's a web store exclusive. There's an indie exclusive. It's going to run you around $28. So this is the follow-up to their 2021 album. Was it Scaled and Icy? Yeah, Scaled and Icy was the 2021 album, which I think was a big step down from Trench, which I think Trench came out in 2018. That was the album that kind of got me into 21 Pilots. Even though I'm not a huge fan of their stuff, I definitely like Trench. And I don't remember the names escaping me of the album that came out before that one. But I like both of those albums. When I checked out Scaled and Icy, I wasn't a big fan of that one. I did buy it on vinyl because I got it I think I got it on sale at Walmart. But, I think I've only listened to it once. To be honest, the next time I take a batch of records to the record store, I'll probably sell it just because I know I'll never listen to the album again. So I'm definitely going to hold off and stream this one. But, I'm definitely interested in checking it out this week. You also got the first 3 albums from the Aquabats getting reissued this week. The first one was The Return of the Aquabats. This was released back in 1995. It was their debut album. It's going to run you around $24 online. There's a black version. There's also a Play-Doh purple version, which is going to be the indie exclusive. If you're unfamiliar with this album, the Aquabats, this is a kind of I guess the best way to explain it is a comedy-oriented ska album. It's got this whole superhero aesthetic that the band does. It's really kind of fun to go back through. They definitely don't take themselves seriously. This album was all self-released by the band. I don't think it got reissued until it was probably 2002 or 2003. Got reissued by Fearless Records. It's kind of cool. It's like I said, it's very much a straightforward late 90s ska album to kind of go back through. It's a fun listen. It's not my favorite album from the band. I might grab it this week, depending on if I can find a copy of it in stores. So you got that coming out. Then you also got their second album, The Fury of the Aquabats. Came out in 1997. It was their second album. It's going to run you $37 online because it's a 2 LP release. There's a black version. The indie exclusive is going to be on Fiesta Red vinyl. This album, it was I think this is definitely my favorite of the 3 early albums for the band. On this album, they incorporated some punk into it. They had some surf rock that they incorporated in the album. I think the big change on this album was they brought in the Baron Von Tito on drums, better known as Travis Barker. And, that's where Travis kind of got his start before he joined Blink-182 after the release of this album. Like I said, very much more of a punk rock album. Hit number 172 on the Billboard 200. This is my favorite album of the band. I don't have it pre-ordered yet, but I probably will pre-order it before Friday. Make sure I get a copy of that one. And then their third album is The Aquabats versus the Floating Eye of Death. This came out back in 1999. It was the third album. There's a black version. The indie exclusive version of this one is going to be on Floating Eye Fleshy Pink Vinyl. Really kind of interesting name. It's going to run you around $37 also. This album, especially compared to the first 2 albums, was very different. And commercially, it was basically a flop. The band, a couple months after this album came out, the band got released by their label. They pretty much completely got rid of the whole ska aspect of their music by this time. It was more punk, but there's also, I guess, probably the best way to put it is like new wave, I think is probably the best way to describe what they did on this album. Much more experimental than their first couple of albums. I think they kind of went a little overboard on the whole comedy aspect a little bit on this album, even though it was definitely stronger, or it was definitely strong on the first two albums. It was a little bit much on this album. I think that's what made this album kind of really fail, commercially. They would go on to take like a 6 or 7 year hiatus after this album came out. It's definitely one I haven't listened to in a long time. I'll go back and stream it this week, though. There's one release this week celebrating a big anniversary, and that is Diamond Dogs by David Bowie, released back in 1974. It was his 8th studio album. The cool thing about this release is it's released 50 years to the day as the original release. I think it's kind of cool. Cool little thing that they're doing with this one. This is going to be $24 online. This is all half-speed mastered. It was kind of a transitional album for David. At this point, he'd really kind of broken away from the whole Ziggy Stardust bit that he was doing earlier in the decade. This is this is definitely one of my favorite David Bowie albums from the 70s. And I was never a big fan of Ziggy Stardust anyway, so it's kind of, I loved how he kind of transitioned away from that persona that he was doing, but it's a really good album. I don't have a copy of it. I probably will grab a copy of it this week. And then you also got Duke Ellington and Johnny Hodges back to back. This was released back in 1959. This is part of the Verve Acoustic Sound series, which is all done through Acoustic, Analog Productions is who it's from. So this is all mastered by Bernie Grumman from the original analog tapes. It's pressed to QRP, these are same thing. Anything that Analog Productions touches is always going to sound fantastic. They do a great job with these releases also. I'm not familiar with this album. I definitely need to go back through and check this one out. But they got Sweets Edison on here, Les Spann, Al Hall, Sam Jones, Joe Jones. Like I said, I love jazz music. I definitely love Duke Ellington. I've got a couple of his albums already. This is definitely one I'll check out this week. Another reissue I'm really looking forward to this week is Rival Sons' Head Down, released back in 2012. It was their 3rd studio album. It's going to be around $30 online. I didn't see a color listed, but it looks like it's this like off-white kind of color for the record. So as much as I like the first two albums, I think this album was the one where Rival Sons really put it all together. This is where they kind of found their sound. Unfamiliar with the band, they've got this really strong 60s, early 70s blues rock vibe to them, and not like a copycat kind of way either. I know the Greta Van Fleet is kind of the same way, really kind of rooted in the like late 60s, early 70s, but they get a lot of those like Led Zeppelin copycat vibes thrown at them, which I don't think is necessarily always true, but I think there's definitely some strong Led Zeppelin in Rival Sons music, but like I said, it's very different. You're not going to listen to this album and think you're listening to Presence or anything like that by Led Zeppelin. It's they could definitely stand on their own feet musically. This is a really good album. This is another album produced by Dave Cobb. Dave Cobb he's done I think every Rival Sons album, starting with their second album on. Really good. This is a really good album. If you're unfamiliar with the band, this is a good album to kind of go back through and start with this one here. This is all newly remastered also. So you got that coming out this week, and then you got a reissue of Creed Greatest Hits coming out. I know what you're thinking. Creed's Greatest Hits. It's going to be a blank album. Ha ha ha. They do have some good songs. I will say that Creed is one of those bands where I'm not a huge fan of. I really thought a Greatest Hits compilation would be perfect for me. This was, by the way, released back in 2002. It's going to be around $33 online. So when I picked this up a couple years back, they had a Walmart exclusive version of it. I was really shocked to find out it's edited. And this one's going to be edited also. It's been edited every single version since it was first released. I don't know if it was a band's decision or a label decision, but I absolutely hate edited music. So I'll probably end up selling off the copy I have. But, if you're a fan of Creed, or not really a big fan of Creed, if they're kind of the same way, if you think a Greatest Hits compilation is going to be right for you, that is getting reissued this week. The next 3 albums are all albums that have been out of print for a long time. People have been dying to get these albums reissued. We're finally getting all 3 of them this week. I'm just joking. We're getting 3 copies or 3 different albums from Fleetwood Mac getting reissued this week. All these albums have been pressed to death over the years, but these 3 are Amazon exclusive releases. They're all on colored vinyl. And, these probably aren't the greatest sounding versions of these albums, but they're going to be widely available. If you don't have a copy of these albums, it might be a good one to grab. But the first one is the band's self-titled album from 1975. It was their 10th studio album. It's going to run you around $25 online. It's on Coke Bottle Clear Vinyl. Like I said, these are Amazon exclusive releases. This is the first album with Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks on it. It was a huge album when it was released. It was the band's first #1 album here in the U.S. It would sell over 7 million copies. It's probably my favorite Fleetwood Mac album, even though I know a lot of people, it's Rumours. But I think overall this is a little bit better of an album than Rumours. It was kind of cool, like when Lindsey Buckingham came in, and Stevie Nicks, a lot of the album, or some of the album, had already been put together. And some of the bigger tracks on the album, but Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks were actually planning to have on their second solo album, and kind of brought them in and kind of incorporated the rest of the band and kind of made them some of the biggest hits on that album. So you got that one getting your reissue this week. For the 50,000th time, I think they're trying to rival, the Dark Side of the Moon with Rumours. But we got another copy of Rumours coming out this week. Released back in '77. It was their 11th studio album. Also going to be about $25 online. This is a purple vinyl, also an Amazon exclusive. This is the album, of course, that made Fleetwood Mac, one of the biggest bands in the world, if not the biggest band in the world. It sold over 40 million copies worldwide. Just like their self-titled album, it was also a #1 album here in the U.S. What else can I say about this album? It is a great album. I love a lot of the tracks on here. I think some of the tracks, though, I can kind of do without. And that's why I think, as far as an overall complete album, that's why I think their self-titled album is a little bit better. Speaking of their self-titled album, I've got the Vinyl Me Please version of it, so I could pass on that one. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look and see what copy of Rumours I have. I think I've got an older, I don't think it's the original pressing, but I think I've got an older 70s pressing. So I might grab a copy of that this week. So you got those first two coming out, and then you've also got Tusk getting reissued. That came out back in '79. It was their 12th studio album. It's on clear vinyl. Going to run you $40 because it's a 2 LP release. It was always going to be hard to follow up both their self-titled album and Rumours. And they did a really good job with Tusk. I know the band didn't want it to be, Rumours 2.0, which is exactly what the label wanted. The label wanted another version of Rumours. And the band didn't want to do that. And I think there was a lot of tension between the band members. I think it's kind of the album that kind of broke Fleetwood Mac overall. And, by '79, by the late part of the '70s, rock music was going in a very different direction. And I think the band, there was a lot of inner turmoil, a lot of, struggle between the band members trying to figure out what direction they wanted the album to go. I'm not a huge fan of this album. I don't have a copy of it, so I might grab a copy of it this week. But, there are some really great tracks on this one. And then the last two albums I'm going to list this week are both from a band that I just recently got into. Even though they've been around for a while, they've been around since, I think, 2007 was when they formed. I've heard of them. I just never really got into the music, started checking anything out until... So they got new albums coming out on June 21st, I think is when it is. And that's when I started getting into the band, is when they dropped the first single off of it. But this is the story so far. This is their self-titled album from 2015. It was their third studio album. Going to run you around $23 online. Probably my second favorite album from the band. This is the first album that I think I actually checked out. I don't know why, but I didn't go in chronological order. I just picked an album on disc on Apple Music and started listening to it. And I really liked it. This is the album that kind of really got me into starting checking out some of the other stuff from the band. Like I said, they got a new album coming out on the 21st. Then they're doing the whole, I think it's a 5 LP, 1 7-inch bundle that they're doing when the new album drops. So I pre-ordered that bundle, so I'll be getting them all on vinyl. So I'll be able to pass on both of these this week. But I think this one hit number 23 or 24 on the Billboard 200. Like I said, 2015, I should have listened to this when it came out. I don't know why I didn't, but you got that getting reissued this week. And then you've got their fourth album, came out in 2018, Proper Dose. This is going to run you about $24 online. I think this is a better album. This is I think the best album the band has done so far. Even though I do like the couple of tracks I've listened to off the new album. Like I said, I'm getting this as part of that bundle, so I could pass on it this week. This one hit, it charted a little bit better, even though I think commercially it didn't do as well. Hit number 19 on the Billboard 200. So musically, this album is a little bit different than the album that came out, or any of the albums, their first three albums, is because it's a little bit heavier, a little darker, less punk rock, has a little bit more like melodic metal kind of mixed in there, even though I don't really want to. I don't really want to say metal at all, but it definitely has a harder edge than their first couple of albums did. And I kind of like the direction they went with that one. So I'm definitely interested to see how they transition from this album to the new one. Well, that's all I got for you this week, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Lots of great stuff coming out this week. Like I said, definitely going to check out the new Lenny Kravitz album. I'll check out the new 21 Pilots album, even though I'm a little more... I think I've got higher expectations for Lenny's album. Definitely going to grab the second Aquabats album. Probably going to grab that jazz album. We'll see what else I end up grabbing this week. But let me drop a comment down below. Let me know what you guys are looking forward to grabbing. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure to give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.